What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Interesting Times. Well, so I think we might already have an explanation video on, or an explanation of sorts for the video that we watched the other day. This is honestly not surprising. It's part of the reason why I had such a hard time coming back into regularly broadcasting anything, is because as soon as you find out something, it is subject to change. So what we're going to do this morning together is watch a video. One of the channels that I watch is that UFO podcast with Andy. It's fantastic. He's wonderful. He's a great interviewer. And he ended up getting somebody that's part of the British Army, somebody that actually worked with the Hellfire systems. He did kind of come forward anonymously to talk about the subject. And he kind of explains from his point of view what he thinks that was. And for him, being familiar with the Hellfire weapon systems and everything else, it was a very prosaic explanation. He had reasonings for it. And then that was kind of followed up with another channel I watch is Chris Lehto over at the Lehto Files. He's the prior F-16 pilot that I'm familiar with. I don't know that we were doing stuff at the same time in Iraq, but we had the same kind of time frames of involvement when we were down there, and I was a weather guy. I would have been briefing pilots. So he's somebody that I trust when he comes to analysis, and he's also done a video. I'm not going to do both of them because we don't really need to spend all that time going through both of them, but what I will do is link both of those channels below, and then you can go independently research on your own. But I just kind of wanted to come back with it and be like, so we have the most crazy UFO video we've ever seen, and then it turns out that it may have an explanation. So let's watch that together and see what
you believe the object is stationary or going incredibly slow. The speed is from the drone filming above. So then, regarding the missile strike, can you talk us through that?
Yeah, so initially what you see is the missile coming from the top left of the screen, and it looks from that angle basically a head-on hit. But what you're actually seeing is, if the commentator was correct in saying that it's two separate drones, the way the Hellfire works is on something called semi-active laser homing. So a coded laser gets painted on the target, and the missile has a targeting pod at the front of it that basically just seeks it. All it cares about is, where is that laser? How do I get to that laser? Once that, so it basically follows a very guided trajectory. When that missile comes in, all it cares about is punching into that target and then exploding. The reason why it didn't explode is unfortunately quite boring. It didn't have enough force on impact, which tells you that the object is extremely soft, light, and basically didn't overcome the safety mechanism, which is it has to hit a certain deceleration, which is a certain amount of G. We call it setback force, to basically prime the fuse and detonate the warhead. So all that tells me is the target is extremely soft or light. Now,
let me ask you then, can I just follow up on that? Sorry to interrupt your train of thought, but while I remember, I had seen other people post online to say that a version of that missile is one that doesn't explode but has barbs or sharp points.
Yeah, so that's
and that would be a reason.
That's the R9X. Basically, that is what we would call an inert version. Well, the warhead would be inert. It still has a rocket booster to get itself onto target and guidance.
Scary.
But that's basically a weapon system designed so that it minimizes collateral damage. It basically, for lack of a better term, shish kebabs the enemy on target without exploding. So you can target a specific person or a specific vehicle without injuring civilians around it. So that is that's a possibility as well. You'd need a much higher resolution video, I think, to be able to see if it was that variant. But
I'm going to pause it right there real quick and also mention that I don't know if he had mentioned this earlier or if it's on the actual discussion about the missile strike, but when he was talking about the ground going at such a rate, because when you look at it on its face, it looks like this object is scooting across really fucking quick, and evidently that has to do with the way that the camera is turreted on the Reaper, and the camera was on a fixed point, which was the object, which make the object look stationary, but the Reaper was also whatever its cruising altitude was with the ground going underneath it. So he basically equated it to parallax is the reason why you're seeing all the movement underneath. So I don't know if he gets into that in this, but he does mention that the object was soft, and the stuff that breaks off the back, I don't really know what that is, because it does look like a debris field. I have seen other videos in which they said that they did a close-up analysis, and they said that it was a breakup of 3 separate orbs coming off of the back. So I try to act as my own check, because you can't just willy-nilly just go every which direction you believe. I have questions as to why a congressman would put this video out, and we'll get to that at the end here. But let me go ahead and finish this up. The big thing to me that was a visual kind of affront on this video is the movement of the ground underneath, and it seems like that's explained with parallax. And he's explaining here the different types of Hellfire missile and the
core of
damage
it.
done. So we'll go ahead.
Both missiles would act in exactly the same way. It just, one is designed to detonate, the other isn't. But the Hellfire is designed to hit tanks and armored vehicles. So when it impacts the target, it's a hell of a lot of setback force, and that's what overcomes the safety features to detonate it. If it's hitting a light target or pushing something like this or punching through, it's not going to get that deceleration force to detonate the munition.
I guess I'm
Okay,
gonna have to get the ads cut
and
off
then
on
when
YouTube,
it
so I don't
does
have to do
make
this every time.
the
Apologies.
impact that it does, there appears to be, and this was something we couldn't quite see at the time. Remember, folks, when we saw this for the first time, they showed it in the hearing on the screen. That was the first time anyone had saw it. They didn't keep replaying it over and over again. They went back to the hearing. So we didn't get much of a glance at it. As people began to pull it apart and rip the video, a lot of folks pointed out a couple of objects, more orbs, seem to appear to come off it as it's hit and carries on. And that was something I thought looked really interesting. But again, you've got an explanation or possible explanation for that.
Yeah, so this links back to what I think the actual scenario for the video is. The reason the video exists is that it's a test mission. The missile is heading towards a target. It's an aerial target. That is the test. So they'd more than likely be gathering telemetry, sensor data, figuring out the force on impact. They'd have different sensors inside the balloon. That all takes electricity to function, which would heat up the balloon, which is one reason we could also see that it's white hot on the FLIR image. The other explanation for it being so bright on the FLIR is you've got the sea in the background, which is cold. The way these camera works is it basically measures the difference in temperature. So if you've got a cold background and even a slightly warm object in front of that, it'll light up white or black depending on what mode you've got it on. So this is lighting up white. The sun is also a possible explanation. It could just be warming up an outer skin of envelope. But basically some energy heat transfer has to be taking place on that object.
One thing is when the object is struck and whatever it is that comes off of it, we don't have much left of that shot of the video before it then changes to a different view. So if these were 3 objects trailing it, we get a very, very, very short couple of seconds at most. So if it was debris falling or rising or floating, it's hard to tell either way. Or if it is indeed 3 defense orbs coming off of a UAP, because you don't then see them in the next part of the video, or I can't certainly make those out anyway. If you take an isolation, I think if you don't get any explanation, if this wasn't set up and given in this UAP hearing, I honestly, I'll try and be unbiased here. If someone just showed me the clip of the close-up of the missile going through the object, the couple of seconds, and then it turned off, it would look like a balloon being punctured.
Yeah.
With some stuff, material floating up. It's hard to work out size of the object, the balloon material, all that kind of stuff, but it's the rest of it that causes some interesting kind of conversation. Marek von Rennenkamp, who I was messaging last night, and actually I was saying...
And I'll go ahead and stop there, because that kind of covers the crux of it. So there, if nothing else, there's at least enough reason for cause for pause. Like, let's not go buck wild over this video. Admittedly, I was like, this is one of the best up close, clearest UFO videos that I've ever seen. And I've taken them. I was like, my goodness. So then you got to come to the landing point of, well, what would be the point of a sitting member of Congress coming out and releasing a video like that? Well, I would guess that he didn't know. I'm guessing that somebody presented him that video in good faith and was like, well, what he would assume was good faith. And then he brought it forth to the public. And the main reason why I could think of something like that, obfuscation. Just if'n you got a guy that's sitting in Congress that releases this video that says, hey, this is what it is, it's a UFO. And then it gets debunked fairly quickly, which is this. It's taken me a little bit to make this video, but this started coming out about a day or two after the video. I'm sure that there are some channels that had immediate input on the validity of the video and what it may be. But if you get somebody of that level that releases a video like that to the public stating X, and X ends up being false, and it ends up being and this isn't a hoax video, it's obviously training or an exercise or potentially one of those Chinese spy balloons that we had an issue with a while back. I have no idea. But then people will question it. And so that means when more information comes out, people will question it and not taking it, and just nobody will believe it. And that's kind of what's happened for like the past 80 years with anything related to UFOs. It's not there. It's not what you don't believe your eyes. You're not seeing it. It's not a thing. It's not real. And this is where it gets convoluted, because you seem to have two different sects within the government that are, one is vying for open disclosure, and then the other one is actively working against it. It's like the right hand's fighting the left hand and getting this out. And then there's people out here like me that are just like, yo, just come out and tell the people. Like, the people need to know whatever it is, because when you leave a space like that, it's going to be filled with nonsense if it's not accurate information. So I have now chalked that video up to potentially it's an explainable video. I'm going to release this video with Andy here. He's wonderful. I recommend you go to his channel all the time. I'm going to put a link to this video down there below, and also probably one for Lehto so that you can watch his. He's a really good guy. I'm not going to do a 20-minute video looking at stuff. But I did want to get this out for everybody and just kind of do a follow-up and be like, this is kind of what happens every time I get something official that isn't something that I went out and got myself. There'll be just something to offset it. So that's what we're looking at this morning, potential explanation to Burlison's UFO video. And I'll be following up my next video, because while all this is happening and everything's falling apart and everybody's struggling, very tough times here in America right now. So I do wish everybody the best of days. I hope everybody is okay and doing well. And I'm going to follow this up with, because we have such a big news cycle right now. NASA came out and said that there was life on Mars, or potential ancient life on Mars. And I'm going to do a video on that one coming up either this evening or tomorrow morning, because I also remember as a kid watching Clinton come out and say that. So I'm going to find the video of Clinton when he was in office. This was from like 95 or 96. And when I was looking into it a little bit further, I'm pretty sure that there was specific annotation of this in about 76. So whatever NASA came out and said is not particularly new, but it did hit the news cycle and nobody's really talking about it because of everything else. So I'm going to do a video on the life on Mars thing next, and kind of herd those cats and see what we can't talk about. So I hope everyone has a good day. I wish you the best. Take care.